Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us again for our Limitless live stream. It is a privilege to come to you every week and share messages that God puts on our heart so that we can all live a limitless life. I'm excited about today's broadcast and what we're going to discuss and the guests that I have. And we've had an ongoing theme and series on faith and feelings. And what's come up in that is about emotional intelligence, how we understand our feelings. And a few weeks ago, I did had an amazing time with my guest Marydith, and we discussed about love and love within the Filipino context and family, and we wanted to continue that discussion today. And so I have actually 3 guests that represent different parts of life, married, kids, single, no kids. And we're going to have a discussion specifically on emotions, on feelings, and the expression of love within a Filipino context. So I'm really excited to have my guests with me today, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves. Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining me here on our Limitless live stream. And would you go ahead and introduce yourselves? Marydith, would you start?
Hi, Pastor Amy. Hello, everyone. I'm Marydith Desabelle, or they call me MD, and I'm working with Global Impact. I've been with the organization for 5 years now, and I'm a single mom of 2 wonderful kids, ages 21 and 13. Yeah.
Wow. You're so young looking that you have a 21-year-old.
Thank you, Pastor Amy.
Very young looking.
Would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me here. My name is Vince, Pastor Amy, and all over the world who's listening, my name is Vince Bitana. You can call me Vince. I'm currently married with 3 kids. My eldest is already 21, and I have 19. And I have a 17 years old, all daughters.
Wow. I have to say wow too, because you look so young to have 21, 19, and 17.
Thank you.
And where do you work?
I'm currently working at Tibo Cure Hospital as their sustainability and development manager.
Fantastic.
I'm working for 5 years now.
Yeah. And Tibo is a medical foundation here that
Yes,
does surgeries
yes.
for children and adults with
Physical disabilities like orthopedic and cleft lip and palate. And now we do have orthotics.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you too.
Yeah. Jorgen.
Hi, Pastor Amy.
Hello.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, hi, everyone. I'm Jordan. I'm currently working at Life as an elite financial advisor, and I'm single with no kids.
Single with no kids.
Yes.
We've been teasing her that I'm going to ask for any resumes out there of qualified young men. Okay. Anyways, Ems, thank you for joining us. Oh, Ems is her nickname, which you may hear me say, but Jorgen, thank you for joining us. And I have to say, too, that Ems is a spiritual daughter of mine. So we have that interaction as well. Okay. So I'm going to ask MD to start, and just based off of our last interview and conversation, what insights came to you from that would lead us to this conversation today?
Yeah, from our last conversation, because I said during that interview that commonly or generally or most of the families I know in the Philippines is that we never talk about feelings at home. We don't really express our love and affection. And we express our love through bullying each other. Yeah. So, and then you ask me, why is that? Why is it easier for us to bully each other? And you said we are warm people. That's right. We are really warm people, but our warmth is expressed not in affection, but in the negative ways. And we laugh at each other's mistakes, diba? Common. It's so common to us. It's so easy for us to do that. And having said that, online, many of my friends reacted and they said, yeah, why is it like that? And they said that perhaps some of the comments actually said that perhaps we express our affection or love through other means like like action
Yep.
or gifts, for instance, other means than expressing ourselves. So
Yeah, so that's what we thought as we discussed. This would be an interesting topic to open up more. That's why we're here. And I'd like to say to our Philippine audience and our international audience, we're going to do this within the context of Filipino culture, but of course take the principles and the understanding and apply it to your own, individual life, your family, or your particular culture. So I obviously am coming from an American perspective, but having lived in the Philippines for many, many years, and I mentioned this during our previous discussion that I only knew about this when Ems and I were talking and praying through some stuff, and this was many years after I'd lived in the Philippines, and then she said to me that in her family and also culturally, to express love through words of affirmation, like verbal expressions, just not done. And I was so shocked. And the reason I was shocked was because I perceive and experience and know the Philippine culture as a whole to be so warm, as we said, and so embracing and loving. So it shocked me at that time, but that's when I began to learn about it. And now it's just come up again during our faith and our feelings. And so that's why we thought it'd be interesting for all of you to give your different perspective. And why? Because as we heard last week, when Sharika spoke so eloquently and powerfully about the love languages, is that we all have different love tanks, so to speak. And that love tank gets filled different ways, right? So just a quick review is that some of us respond more to words of affirmation, others to acts of service, there's physical touch, there's quality time, and there's, what's the other one? And there's gifts. Right, thank you. So, yeah, gifts. I think, well, we must have a gift person here. I see where everyone gets excited. So, why do we want to understand this? Because maybe it's something that's good for the next generation, right? Like it's so common for all of us. We just adopt what our parents taught us. But where did they get it? From their grandparents and from sometimes we don't even know why we are this way. Yes. And when we can analyze, not in judgment, not in criticism. There's no criticism. It's just more like, And is there a way that we can enhance this and grow? Because our whole topic is being limitless, right? Yes. So how do we go from one level to a next level? So that's the context of our conversation. So Vince, tell us a bit about how you grew up and in terms of also feeling love or knowing love. What was it like for you?
Actually, I grew up in a slum area. I actually came from Manila, not here in Davao. And so the culture with where I live is very, very different. Meaning, in a slum area, a lot of people are always quarreling outside, always fighting. Just like what MD mentioned, bullying each other, up to the point of killing each other and sort of stuff. But in our family, same thing with MD. We don't usually express ourselves by saying, I love you, no affirmation like that. But I remember my mom would always pray at night, would always, even a simple prayer, she would always pray for us. I'm the eldest, I have 3 siblings, and she would constantly do that.
Did you feel loved when she prayed for you?
Yes, yes. Although the surrounding is very different, she's always away. My dad is always away. Like we're all in the room or eating together, but nobody's talking, nobody's sharing, and all that. And that stick to me. Now that I became a Christian and I know the Lord, I changed it. I created a new culture within a culture.
Wow.
A culture of love, a culture of affirmation, a culture wherein everyone is heard. Like, if you don't know my family, if you join us during dinner time, you would say, are they fighting? No, because I told them to express yourselves. You are free to express yourself, but nobody's fighting you, nobody's against you, but just lay your cards on the table, but we're gonna discuss it and show love towards one another. So in my family, that has always been our not really a rule, but really
The environment.
the environment inside our house. We're really open, and I always tell them that you have to speak out.
Good.
You
Yeah.
don't let anyone just.
How about in terms of love? Do you verbalize and say I
Yes.
love you? And is it easy for you now?
No, it is.
Was it
But
hard?
before, it's hard
Very
because of where I live in, because of my environment, because probably how I was raised.
Sure.
My mom, well, she would say sometimes, but never I have heard it from my dad.
Oh, really?
So I think that's a big. It takes a big cut into
awesome.
my heart.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's not good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to come. I'll come back in a little bit, and because I want to understand after we hear from Ems a bit, Georgian a bit. I want you to talk about how that's changed things for your kids, different from you. But I'll come back to you. So, Georgian, tell us about how you grew up and expressions of love, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I grew up in Tulunan, North Cotabato. So I'm the youngest in the family. And my family, we are not really expressive at all. So the same with what Ate MD and Sir Vince said, that we express it in fighting each other. We just don't say it at all. And I remember, even, right now, there's no memory of me that my parents told me that they love me, like verbally said that they love me. But I know, like they are like doing all they can to support us and stuff like that, but never heard them say I love you, So I just don't have that orientation at all, Pastor Amy. And growing up, I think for me personally, it's a gap. It's really a gap. Most of the people that know me for a long time, I have hard time receiving love. I have hard time when people affirm me or tell them that they love me. I believe it's because of how I grew up and not receiving that at all. And there was one time in, like growing my relationship with the Lord, this was highlighted to me. And it was a progressive process that God was telling me, it's time for you to say to your parents, especially to my dad, that I love him, and not wait for them to, for them to say that to me. So it was really, for me, it was hard. It was awkward. It was hard, and being the youngest and being, like a lady at that time, growing up, it's just hard. It's very awkward. That's what I felt. But I wanted to do it. And there was one professor who said during our class when I was in college that don't wait when it's too late for you to say I love you to your parents. So I went home. It was like one weekend. I went home. And like just that weekend, I was like debating, should I say it? Should I, And then I remember it was dawn and I'm about to go back here in Davao.
The very last minute.
Yeah, the very last minute. The van was already waiting, and my father, because he's more of like the acts of service kind of guy. Like he's very quiet. He doesn't express it at all. So the van is there waiting for me, beeping, and I said to my dad, it was the first time ever. I would never forget that. I love you, and I know that it really touches him so much because he just kept quiet, but his face turned red and it's like almost, he's teary-eyed. And he just melted. He just melted. He just didn't say anything. But I know it struck him. For me, that was a breakthrough. That was the gap broke at that time. And I know that it really impacted him very much because after that, my relationship with my dad just, progressed, and there's changes. He would, at least take care of me when he would express himself, and he's kind of sweet now. it's not like that. He's not like that before. So that was my story of how that breakthrough happened with,
So we heard Sharika's talk last week about different love languages. So when you were growing up, how would you say, like I know, because we've had lots of talks, like you knew your parents loved you, right? How did you know that though? If they didn't verbalize it, how did you know it?
it's just by giving advices. It's just by taking care of us. That's how I know that my parents love me, like making sure that we are safe, making sure that there's security, that bringing food in the table.
Right.
That is just how.
That's like maybe acts of service.
Yeah.
So it was expressed through acts of service. And probably how would you say in your family, how was growing up? Okay, let's just stick with growing up right now. How was love, when you were a child, like in your family, how was love expressed in terms of the 5 love languages? How would you say it was expressed?
Yeah, actually your question, how did I know that I was loved? It really hit a nerve or something in me, because really I had to grow, I had to discover that they really loved me, because I did not understand that there are other ways to love except for expressing or saying it, verbalizing it. So having no background or just learning about the love languages, like emphasized last week, I really had to grope around and analyze for myself that maybe they love me because they they allow me to attend this, or they give my needs or stuff like that. It was just a normal child trying to understand things. Nobody.
So are you saying you thought through that when you were a child, or this is later when you're an adult thinking back?
Yeah, I think it's already when I'm adult.
Okay.
And
So
perhaps when I was a child, I was trying to understand. I was trying to analyze.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it took me a while to really accept or to really believe that they love me.
Yeah.
Because just like Ems, I have no memory of being told I am loved.
So, okay, and also for you, Vince, too, like I think you've already said that, but just if you can reiterate it, like, did you feel loved when you were a child? Or was it like a question mark? Sounds like, if I could put words, sounds like it was a question mark when you were a child. Like, am I not? Like, there's no, I am.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I hope I am, I think I am, I've got to find a reason to show that I am. Like, how was it for you?
For me, I've realized it from my mom because of what she's doing. Because she's our breadwinner. Yes, my dad is.
So you had a real solid sense of being loved when you were a kid?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. From my mom, but not from my dad. Both of them passed away. And if my relatives are listening to this, I love my dad and I love my mom, but at the point of when I was growing up, I really felt so neglected on the side of my dad. But for my mom, I really felt the love. Why? Because she's always there. She's the one who's bringing all the food to the table and all that. And she's also verbalizing it. Not all the time, but sometimes she would say, I love you. Even though I'm always away, I always love you. Because she would go abroad and then go back, and then go abroad and then go back.
I see.
And so up until such time, because 21 years old was the time I got saved. So it's from age that I know the world. I mean, from that time, I always hate my dad. I always hated him. I always fight. We always fight. I always rebel. I don't listen to him and all that because of the hate inside of me. And then when I was listening to her earlier about saying I love you to his dad and my dad, and I actually, the first time I said I love you was at the point when he's dying. And that for me, because I had to break through forgiveness first before I can say I love you. Because that is really a struggle for me, even if I am a Christian already, 21. I'm already married, but there was a struggle inside of me to forgive.
Sure.
And, it took me a while. It's not really easy, even if I'm raising my hands, worshiping at the Lord, and I'm always saying that, you are my Lord. But when God pinpointed something in my heart and say, forgive your dad, I'm like sometimes, Lord, is it really necessary for me to forgive my
Not
dad?
that. Anything else but
Can I
that.
just set that aside first and then just do all the things and
Yeah.
church thing, and then this one, I'm not yet ready. But there was this season.
By the way, I love that you're real, because I think people watching, that's just because we become a Christian or because we know the Lord or have faith doesn't mean that everything in our heart gets worked out in the first moment.
Yes.
That's called the process, the journey. And I
yes.
think that should be liberating to some people listening, like, it's okay. If that's where you're at, it's okay, but just take steps forward in forgiveness, because it actually it's a prison to you, not really the other person.
Yep.
Go ahead, though.
It's actually a revelation from me. It's like something like a, what do you call that? A
Drill?
drill that was lifted in my heart. The moment I told my dad, I've forgiven you. And then the next time, like after a few months or years, then I was able to say I love you.
Wow.
So
And
that's-
what was
that
that? What
for
was
me.
that like for you when you verbalized that?
It was like, at first I'm rallying all my strength. I'm a man. I was like saying, you're a man,
Yeah.
you're not gonna cry. But, well, when I said that, I was the one who first cried, not him.
And
But,
he cried too?
He cried too, right after.
Not that we're after
said that.
crying, but I think it's a good point, especially for men, because men are often told and told not to cry, and expect themselves not to cry. And we're not trying to make, but the thing is that there's still tears on the inside, and there's sadness, and there's grief, and there's times we have to express that, let that out, and it's actually healthy emotional intelligence, whether we're male or female. Would you agree?
Yes, I agree. Because sometimes that's the macho thing.
Yeah.
For a guy, you would say that, don't cry. Men don't cry. But it's really, when you express yourself, you emotionally express it in such a way that it releases you. Because if you don't do that, you're not being true to yourself.
True. You're still keeping it inside. It's
Yes,
there.
yes.
We've had a topic of emotional intelligence. So I think that's a great term, both for male and female, because none of us want to be emotional, up and down and crying. That's not what we're after. But we are after understanding our emotions, processing feelings, not letting them be trapped or just blocked inside. But how do we acknowledge them and really release them? Because negative emotion that stays inside of us long term doesn't help any of us.
Yeah,
I mean,
agree.
anger that builds up, unforgiveness, hatred, it's still there. Whether we block it, push it, whatever, it's still inside. So it sounds like you were able to, that was a great way to just let it out.
Actually, it's really a struggle for me. I was like pretending I'm okay, but I'm really not.
Yeah.
Like, even if I go to church, I attend church, I became a leader at church, and up to the point that I would preach. And somehow, God would really pinpoint every time I would do my quiet time. It would pinpoint something about forgiveness. It would always go back to forgiveness. And I would always be reminded of my dad. And so, that in itself is... I prayed about it. Lord, give me the courage. Give me the courage and boldness to really say, because from growing up until the time that I realized and I submitted myself to the Lordship of Jesus, I really hated him because of what he's been doing to the family. And yet, God
Which
would
was,
always...
that was drugs and things like
drugs,
that?
alcohols, and womanizing, and not providing for our family and all that.
So you might say, I mean, there's a lot of legitimate reason to hate and have unforgiveness, because we're talking extreme things.
Yes.
Drugs and what'd you say, like not providing, womanizing, so many things. Neglect, which we're not saying, I love to point this out, because if we're talking about love and expression of love, God's expression to us, right, is complete and unconditional love.
Yes.
And because of what Jesus did on the cross is why we can forgive. So we can acknowledge that somebody wronged us, they sinned against us, they didn't do us right, they neglected us, they offended us, and we accept that for what it is, but we can receive Christ's payment and then forgive and let go, but we still receive his love and his payment on the inside.
I thank the Lord for giving me the grace to really forgive and love and express love towards my children now.
Amazing. Yeah.
Because that left a mark for me before.
Sure.
And it's really, and it's a long struggle. Even if I'm already Christian at that time, I'm still struggling through that. But by God's grace, I'm really thankful. Now I can pretty say that I really love my dad.
Wow.
You know, I appreciate him. Because sometimes if you ask me questions, what are the memories you have with your dad? I couldn't say anything. Like I couldn't even remember any particular thing that he verbalized or he took action that I would feel love. Okay. But when I became a Christian, when I received the Lord Jesus as my Lord, Master, and Savior, little by little. It's not automatic, but it's little
Step
by
by step.
little, step by step. It's like a jar that's broken, that God is the one fixing it that over time.
Right.
I can't hurry it up because if I hurry it up, it's not really genuine.
Yeah.
It's not organic, and it will just be a waste of time.
I love that. It's not plastic. It's not just a face. It's not like this is what I'm supposed to do. No, like let's really walk through it and be real. I want to bring us back to a topic you brought up about bullying. And somehow that's an expression of love. Let's talk about that a little bit more. What?
Yeah.
I know you've thought about it a bit, but explain to everybody and our viewers your point of view and why bullying is so much easier than maybe even expressing love in a certain way. Why?
Yeah.
Do you know why?
I still don't know why. I can only conclude from the past that maybe because it's the way we interact at home, like the siblings. We don't hate each other, but we express our fondness to each other through bullying. Okay. Like just negative, like we call each other pangit or ugly. That's the nickname, and we take it as fondness, right? I'm sure you can relate.
Being a man, because I'm the eldest, I always bully my siblings.
Yeah.
I may not say I love them, but through that, and then at the same time, like, oh, are you okay? Did I hurt you? Something like that. But I did hurt them by saying things, bad things at them before. But it's sort of, I don't know, it's a body language, so to speak. Not intentionally saying or verbally saying I love you, but because of the commonality, familiarity inside the house. Yeah. Like, we would all assume that we love each other already without even verbalizing it.
How about you? What about bullying and love, like in your family?
We fight a lot. My sisters, there's five girls and only one boy.
And you're the youngest.
And I'm the youngest.
And you probably had to fight for yourself.
Yes. And growing up, I really have a tough personality too, so I don't just let my sisters, before that, they just so we really fight. We fight a lot. Like, I remember my parents would just be so mad because we just have this attitude or personality, each of us differently. So we just fight. And what Sir Vince said, that I really agree that we just assume, we assume that we love each other even though we fight. I remember we call names, like, I have a name for her, like my other sister, I have another name for my sister, especially when I'm mad, I call them that, and those kind of things. So it just become part of the orientation, just
the way things are done.
Things are done, and then after that, we don't even, we don't
So let me ask you though, okay, because it's just like the norm, how you do it. And again, I just want to reemphasize, we're not criticizing or judging, we're just observing right now, right? So now from your perspective, like when you were bullied, let's say you, MD, when you were bullied by your family, how did that make you feel way down deep? Like you might have kept the smile and the laugh on the outside, but how did you feel in your heart?
Yeah, of course. Actually, I think that's where all the hurt are coming from right now, because subconsciously it's just there. It's just in there, and they don't. There's no appreciation. It's not to judge my family or what. It's, I'm just sharing. I'm just sharing what we usually do at home. And
because you even told me you do it. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, even now, right? I shared to you right after our topic.
Yeah.
I shared to you, I just realized we express our love, or it's so easy for me to bully my younger sister, even on text, on messenger, on comments, because that's our vehicle now to communicate. It's so easy, but when there's something to appreciate about, we don't do that. It's so hard for me to get it out and express that I appreciate her or stuff like that. So yeah.
So I would like to say, like, nothing wrong with us jesting one another, having fun. Like, we say, like from American culture, we say give each other a hard time, right? Like, and there is ways that when you're really close to somebody and you give them a hard time or bully or whatever, but I guess from my perspective though, okay, that's one thing. But if on the flip side, you have difficulty or can't express also the appreciation. And especially in the context of this, of like, everybody's got a love tank and it gets filled different ways. And especially, what about the person that needs words of affirmation? But they get the exact opposite, like Sharika talked about last week. Do you know what I mean? Like, can you comment on that? Comment on that part.
Yeah, so for us, I mean, especially for me growing up, like, that's why I have a hard time receiving words of affirmation, because we don't have that. And
in fact, like, I just have to, so when somebody would even give it to you, you're resisting it because you don't even know how to take it in. It feels way too awkward.
I froze. Like, literally, I froze before when people are, giving me words of encouragement.
I love you.
See, we've made progress.
We made progress. So I think, even that for my father, it just progressed. It helped me with my journey, not just for my parents, for my family, but it helped me journey with other people, with my relationship with God and with other people. So for me as well, like just thinking about the how it impacted me when we bully each other, when we fight each other, it has like a very deep.
It hurt inside.
It hurt inside. Like, I had a lot of prayer ministry because of that. Like, because I always felt I'm the last option in our family. Like, I felt I'm just not the priority. And, even like few years back, I still struggle with that. I just don't have that breakthrough that time. So it's but right now, I think my take on that, like how we process it in the family, I initially say to, because I have nephews and nieces right now, I would really initiate. I tell them before I drop my call, because I'm away. So once I have time to talk with them, I always say before I end that call, I love you to every single one, not just as a general. I make sure that I
Heartfelt.
I love you. Yeah, I love you. And not just like a general, because I don't want them to feel left out. Like, I want to pinpoint each other. Like, point every single one of them and tell them, I intentionally saying, like, I miss you, I love you. And at first it still felt awkward, but it's really progressing.
And how do they respond?
They would really tell me I love you too. They just had that like, they are not forced to say I love you too.
Right. It's become natural.
Yeah, it's become natural.
Right. And do they bully each other?
Well,
Probably,
Probably,
right?
yes. They still
But I
fight.
guess the point is that you can bully, give each other a hard time, but you can also express
Yes.
Yeah.
the love, the appreciation, the affirmation.
Yeah, and I can see that. I can see that to them. They say "I love you" to each other.
Yeah.
You know, to their
Good.
siblings.
Yeah,
So,
I think you changed the next generation. Yeah, tell us about what you did.
For me, I was just, it's a bit different from both of them because I'm the eldest and I'm the one bullying. And so, but
I think they bullied too, it sounds like.
maybe
But you're the older brother
the
who
older
bullied,
brothers,
right?
I was the one bullying them.
Yeah.
Like we had this expression, our impression, the whole family, that at the end of the day, we will still love one another, even though we're not really expressing them. Although we bully one another. But part of me growing up, because at an early age, all the responsibilities was poured out on me. Like, I actually was not able to finish college because I need to work hard at a young age. My mom would always go out of the country to work, and then my siblings, I would take care of all of them. And so that's basically the reason why I hated my dad. It's because I'm seeing him not doing anything, and yet my mom is
Doing
doing
everything.
everything. And then I was left with all the responsibilities, being the eldest. And so that in itself, when expressing my love for my siblings, I'm not really expressive during that time. During the time when I was not yet a Christian, I would always bully them, spank them, and lose toy with them.
Can I ask you now, though, because you said you changed it with your
Yes,
family.
my
So
children.
tell us that transition and the difference that you see with your kids compared to how you grew up.
Yeah, because I always give them my testimony. I always tell them where I came from. I always tell them that it is always by the grace of God.
And you
I
obviously
am
tell them
here.
you love them.
Yes.
Too. They
Yes.
know you love them.
Yeah. I always tell them that, this is like we're building a new culture in our family. The culture of love, the culture of affirmation, the culture wherein all of us, there's forgiveness in the house.
Wow.
They know that at a young age, at their young age, because, aside from knowing the book beforehand, I've read it a lot of times and really doing it, applying it in my own family. And it changed from time to time. But I mean, different seasons. Like when they were younger, we were so expressive. Now that they are all adults, but
It's a little different.
a little
yeah.
different
Sure,
now.
sure.
They
Of
are
course.
teenager.
Yeah.
And I would like to correct myself earlier. My eldest is all 20.
Oh, you're in trouble.
Yeah, I know.
You're getting bullied when you
Yeah,
go
I know.
home.
My eldest is 20 because I said 21. She
okay.
would say that.
Okay.
And then
Oh.
my youngest,
That's
my
not bad.
second
That's
would,
okay.
would be 18 this coming August 5.
Okay.
And then 17. So I just
Okay.
want to correct myself.
Forgiveness. Forgive your father. Forgive your father.
Yeah, I know.
So,
And so,
go ahead.
yeah.
Then. Okay.
Yeah, and so growing up, it's a bit different in our context, and then shifting it from a perspective wherein there's love,
Yeah.
there's affirmation, and I felt the warmth environment when you're all talking, when you're eating together. We would just laugh at each other. When someone says something, I would say, "Hey, that's not right for you to say that to your sister. What will you do?" And then she would immediately say, "I'm sorry, I said that to your two." And then they would hug each other. It's like when I would just say that if only I could capture it and maintain it.
Yeah.
But again, all of us has different growth in the Lord.
Yeah.
Like I cannot replicate my daughter's growth.
Sure.
It is very personal with the Lord. So we're just sharing it in a way that, this is our values in our family. And I hope that someday, if you have your family, I hope you keep or you add something to it
Sure.
to make it your
I think
own.
that's great. One generation can pass something awesome to the next and
Yeah.
keep building. I want to ask MD about that because you've created that culture now with your kids.
Yes,
and tell us a little bit about the difference in terms of how they respond to you and that interaction.
Yeah, so with the context, no, of families not being able to express. So while we are growing, we are learning, so we want to create another generation that is somehow transformed. And so I intentionally express my love and appreciation to my kids, and because they are trained that way since the beginning, because I verbally express, etc. So they're now able to receive easily and express the same easily also. And it really changed. I can actually see even between the siblings, it's so easy for them to say sorry, to appreciate each other, and it's really good. And actually, it's something that all parents should really intentionally do right now.
Yeah, I want to point that out, because I really feel like it's the parents' responsibility, not to put too much pressure on parents, but I heard this story about one of our other staff that that she would avoid going to church on Father's Day because the pastor would tell all the kids to go to their father and tell them that they loved him. So she would avoid that because she didn't want to be awkward. But when I heard that story, I thought, I don't think it's my opinion, but I don't think it should be the child that starts it, though you started it. You know what I mean? Awesome, you did it, but you were an adult when you did it. But I think it's great if the parents break the barrier so that the kids can just easily absorb it. Like, let's not expect our kids to do that. Don't you? I mean, as parents, do you agree?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
I mean, you both have done it, actually. You're
Yes,
both doing
agree.
it.
And something comes to mind with that. Maybe that's also why some parents now don't like the grandparents to take care of their children because, of course, some grandparents are not conscious about building another culture, etc. So, because I see that, but I think that's another topic.
Yeah, but it's really a revelation from the Lord, I would say, because it's not automatic. It's really the leading of the Lord, little by little.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom when she came back from the States, and then a few months later she died, and she would gather us all, and she would keep on reminding us what she's verbalizing before, that she loves us so much, and that really made a mark.
Yeah.
And that for me, expressing it at home, like the Shama, like the Hebrew, like at the doorstep, you would always say the teachings of the Lord, no? And so, for me, now that I am passing it on to the next generation, I would always tell them, it's really okay to appreciate. It's really okay to appreciate, but not to the point that you're overwhelming the person or like faking it.
Yeah,
or,
totally. No, we're not into that.
Yeah.
We want to be intentional and real, and it doesn't mean we have to do it every day and every second, because then it becomes, it's when you feel it in your heart. I think that's the thing. When you feel it, but you can't say it, then there's some barriers too. And I also believe that, in a family culture, then also let's be intentional about it. Let's learn it. And even if it's awkward for you, the only reason something's awkward is just because we haven't done it yet. Once you do it a few times, it becomes natural. So anyway, I think there's so much we could talk about here, but I hope it's been insightful. And I'll just ask you, do you have a quick last minute advice to our audience? Ams, you start. Any last minute advice?
So to all the young women and young men over there watching, like our generation, if you haven't done it yet, like saying I love you or you love your parents, your family, just do it, just do it, because again, for me, I'm speaking from myself that I've done it. I just don't want to wait when it's too late, when it's a day too late for them to hear that we love them. So just have that courage and just be gracious with yourself as well. Trust the process, trust the Lord, and God will give you grace and strength and confidence to do that, to just express how much you love your family, how much you love the people around you. So, just ask God as well for the guidance and, again, the strength, the strength and the courage, because it's important that we express our love for each other. It's really important.
It's important
because it will break barriers. It will break gaps. So
living limitless.
yes,
Part of living
Yes.
limitless is having our love tank filled up.
yes,
actually.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, your last words of advice.
Well, for all the people who's listening, as a dad, as a father, I know it's very hard. I know sometimes you would think it's corny to really say sorry.
Yeah.
But it would really make a difference in the lives of your children, letting them know, verbally saying, praying for them, and letting them realize that you love them. And one thing I realized that whenever I say that, and it puts a smile into my daughter's face, and they would always hug me back because I said, I love you. Sincerely. Don't just say I love you just because you were told to say I love you, but mean it from the bottom of your heart.
Awesome. Awesome advice. MD?
Yeah. Okay, so to all the mothers and single mothers, either single or with a partner, you're still mothers. So just, it's okay to not be okay, and just trust the process. Just be gracious to yourself, and be forgiving, and be understanding, and just submit everything to God, and all will be well.
Awesome. Thank you so much to each of you for being real, for sharing your heart, your experience. Like, it's really insightful. So thank you to all of you.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
I hope that really ministered to your heart, gave you insight into different expressions of love. We focused a lot on verbal expression, but let's remember there are many different ways that we express love, but words of affirmation and verbalizing love is extremely important. And some of you out there might say, but I didn't get that as a kid. I don't know how to do it. Well, I want to just, release God's presence and His love. And one of the things I've been focusing on, and you can watch other of our series and trainings that we do, but we all have emotional needs, and if they didn't get filled when we were a child, which most things honestly don't. There's no perfect parent, no perfect environment. None of us grow up in. But when we recognize that, we can always get filled up. We don't have to stay lacking, and we don't have to stay empty. Why? Number one, we can connect with God, and particularly for unconditional love. When we connect with Him and we know Him, He fills up that love tank, that container, that emotional need that we need as children and we need as adults. He fills it up. And another technique, which I'll just mention, but we can also start to give that to ourselves. What we didn't get, we can give to ourselves, okay? And what do? We need to love ourselves. We need to tell ourselves that we love ourselves. We need to treat ourselves kindly, speak kindly, have good self-talk. It's a big topic, which, again, I'm just mentioning here, but a lot of times we're not even loving ourselves because we haven't got love from others and we haven't received love. But this is a very important part, that we actually love and like ourselves and talk nice to ourselves and have empowering thoughts. And there's a lot in our subconscious that we don't even know that goes on, where we're talking negative and disempowering to ourselves. So I just encourage you to look at that. That's just a little tidbit. And I've got other trainings and actually whole courses on that. And then the third way we get filled up is external sources, other people filling us. But we also don't want to rely on just other people, especially as adults. We want to be around the people that do fill us up, and we want to fill others. But I want to encourage you to do that. But also get filled up with God, and also fill yourself, and then get filled up from those, your friends, your loved ones, your family. They're going to fill you, but you fill them as well. And keep in mind always that there's 5 love languages. So let's try to express love and understand one another and how our friends, our family, our staff, like this is applicable in leadership as well, how they feel filled up, how they feel appreciated, and how they feel affirmed. It's so important. And then we also understand ourselves. Okay, God bless you. I believe this is so, so important to living a limitless life, having the emotional intelligence, and specifically being filled up with love is power in our life. 1 Corinthians 13 says that love never fails. It never fails. And there is great power. And God doesn't just have love. He is love. He is the source of unconditional love. And I want you to know that no matter what you've done, no matter what you've come from, no matter what's been a lack in your life, no matter the horrible things that you've done in your life, He's not a God of judging you. He's a God who loves you. And His love comes to save you, to redeem you, and to lift you out of the negativity, of the pain, of the yuck. And I want you to know that because there's a lot of words out there about God's judgment. And God is a just God and He's a judging God. But you know, Jesus, He took our judgment for us. Why? So we can feel His love. We can be filled with His love. And from love, we change and we grow and we succeed. I just want you to know that I release that love to you right now, that no matter where you are, you would be filled with His presence and His unconditional love. He loves you. God bless you.